everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the second video in the JavaScript interview series. So if you're new here, consider subscribing because I bring latest tech tutorials and tech videos on this channel. And also, if you haven't watched the first video in the JavaScript interview series, please continue with that first, then move into this video because that might be the requirement for this video. And with that, let's get started with this video and learn about hoisting and variable in JavaScript. Hello, welcome back to this JavaScript series. I'm glad you are joining this and learning things more on the JavaScript side. Today we are going to talk about let, const, var, differences, various things around that. We are going to cover one of the most important topic in JavaScript, that is known as hoisting in this video. We're going to talk about global variables in JavaScript. We're going to talk about how strict mode works in JavaScript and variable shadowing as well. So couple of things to cover in this video. So without the further ado, let's get started. So I have created a JavaScript file and link to this to my HTML file. So just like this, using script tag. In the previous video I already talked about how this linking works and everything and behind the scenes. So if you haven't checked out the previous video to this video, just go ahead and check it out. Right, so let's get started. So I have linked to this. I have done some styling to see some styling on my web page. Not very good, but works. So I have my script tag as well that is linked to it, and our thing is running on this browser. So let's just quick check. If we do console log and go to the browser, you'll be able to see this here. So it's working fine. And let's start with the concept first, right? So the first thing we are going to talk about is global variables in JavaScript. So you might have already heard about global variables. Whichever programming language you go, there might be concept of global variable. So let's understand what global variable means first. So global variable is a variable that is declared outside a function. That means if a variable is declared outside function, we have two different concepts of global execution context, function execution context that we have discussed in the previous video. That concept is required here. That if you haven't watched that, please watch that first and then come back to this video. So you have global execution, you have function execution context, two execution different contexts. So whatever that is declared outside function that will not go into function execution context is known as global variable. And why we declare that? If we are associating a global variable in our program, it typically refers that it will be available in the window object. So window object, it just binds the variable to the window object, and you can access it throughout the program wherever you are writing it, inside function or if else condition, anywhere you can access that particular variable. So that's the behind the concept of global variable, right? So if you declare a variable without using var is a keyword that is used to declare a variable. So if you declare a variable without var, even it's inside the function, it will be considered as a global variable. So weird things in JavaScript, you can declare a variable just writing a equal to 5. You don't need to give types to that basically. So that's the beauty of it, but this also leads to a lot more problems as well that we are gonna see. So let's understand first a concept of global variable. So var is a keyword that is used to declare variable in JavaScript. So var, let's say let's call it global, G for global and global variable, and assign it some value. So I've assigned it. I go to the browser and see nothing pops up here because we haven't logged it yet, right? So go ahead and log it. We'll log gvar. So we'll be able to see, okay, there is some breakpoint. Put that I put previously. Let's remove that. And if you go to console, you'll see that 10 is displayed here. Well, that was expected. That was purely expected. Let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and type in if gvar equal to 10. Just execute things inside that. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna do a weird thing. We're gonna do redeclaration of this. We're gonna assign value 20, right? So now we have assigned this value 20. Now let's console log it here. So I would like you to guess what will be the output for this, right? So just guess it, like, so let's go ahead. So most of you have already guessed it, right? I guess. So if I go ahead and go to the console and I see 20 and 20, that is coming from line number 7 and line number 10. So that is line number 7 and line number 10. Just see a weird thing here now. So if it is declared, if we declared outside a function, it is a global variable. So this is a global variable now. You can again declare it in JavaScript like this. So it will override the previous one. So you'll do g equal to var. So this modifies the g var as well. So this value changes to 20, and here also when you are accessing it again, it will give you a 20 value. So that's why we are getting 20 and 20. Let's do one more weird thing again, right? Let's declare a variable a without, like, var, let or const keyword, and give a value 50. It's save. So if you go to console, it will again show 2020, that's expected, and it doesn't give us error. Now what I'll do, go ahead and type it console log a, right? And I'll do like a equal to something like this. So if I go to my program again and go to my console, I'll see that 20 is coming, 20 is coming, that was before also, but now a equal to 50 is also coming. So if you see, so we call this as a block. So a block is a collection of statement, or you can tell, like, it's a compound statement with more than one statement, known as compound statement, and we put that things in block. So if a is declared inside a block as well, it could be accessed outside that block, right? So we can access here a as well. So these two things are associated with the global variable right now. So how to find out that? So if I refresh this page, it hits here, and if you go to this scope, right, you'll find this global object. This is the same we talk about window object, right? So this is the same global object, and our variable you will find somewhere here, right? If it is stopping here at this particular point. If I continued execution for this, let's say I place a breakpoint here and this particular execute, and again if you go to the global variable and check what is a global object and check what is the value of g var, it will become 20, because this is associated with the global window object, right? Now let's check what is a. So if I break the breakpoint here and continue this, and this is executed now, let's check a. What is a here? So if I go to the global object, you'll find that our g var is same as present. So it is present as same as g var in the global object. So this will be accessible throughout the program. So let's do one more weird thing. Let's create one more var variable using var keyword. We call it as second var, and let assign it value 100, right? All good, nothing weird so far, right? Let me remove this all console that we have already covered. Now I'll console log this particular second var outside the block basically. So if I go here, you can see this 100 is accessible here, still accessible here, because as we said, everything outside function, it is not a function, right? It's a if block. So it will associate it with again with window object, correct? Window object. So if you go ahead and put a breakpoint here and run the program again, it will hit here, and where you will find this second var, just answer this. That's correct. I guess you might already have guessed correctly. So you'll find this second var in the window object itself, because it's a global variable, and global variable are associated with the window object, as you can see here. So now we have understood how global variable works, how var is created as a global variable when declare outside functions. Let's now understand what is the problem here. The problem is you're declaring a directly like this wherever, like be it, for example, if there were one more if condition here, and if there were one more if condition here, if there were one more if condition inside this as well, and if I would have declared a in here as well as 10,000 value and hit save and go to back to my program, right, and just place a breakpoint, for example out here, and re-execute the program, so it will just stuck here. And let's check the value of a, like what is the actual value of a, right, in the global object. So if you see, this is still in the global object, it is still in the window object, and that's a very high thing for caution. It can create lot of errors, it can create lot of bugs, right? So just imagine, like, going anywhere and declaring a global variable. It is not like, best practice to do that, right? So what JavaScript came up with to handle this, right? So there is something known as strict mode in JavaScript, where whenever you are running a JavaScript program in strict mode, you will get a reference error, and we'll see how. So the problem you have already understood, like, however, if you assign a value to a name that is that not has been declared with let, const or var, it is considered as a global object, right? You will end up creating a global object wherever you create, be it like inside any nested block, right? If you create any variable without let, const and var, it will end up creating a global variable. Please note that, please note that, right? Now let's understand next thing, right? This could create a lot of bug that we are talking about, and there is a solution known as strict mode that we'll talk that we are going to talk about, right? So let's understand first. Let's go to our function, like function back, right, or program back. So let me open VS Code again, and let's do one thing. How you create a strict mode? You go to the top of the JavaScript file and you just write use strict and you hit save. That's it. That's what you need to do. Now this program was running very nicely without any errors in our browser. Let's go back and see what is going. So if you see, this program gave us an error. A is not defined, right? A is not defined. So this strict mode tells that you can't declare variable just like this, or you need to specify a keyword for declaring a value. You can't go ahead and create variables anywhere you like and end up creating a global variable. So this is how they came up with, right? So if you just add a strict mode, it will convert into a strict program, right? So right now we have already talked about var, global variables, and strict mode. Now let's move into one of the most important concepts, that let, const and var, that are directly asked in the interview sometimes, and this could help you, right? So let me do one thing. Let me remove almost everything from here, and let's understand the concept of let, var, and const first, right? So before moving further, let's just clear things, like variable declared using var keyword inside a function, right? Inside a function, I'm saying, not inside a block, if else block, right? I'm telling inside a function will be scope to that function itself, right? I'm not talking about if else. If you create a variable inside if else block or any block apart from function, right, it will be termed as a global variable. But if you can create a variable using var inside a function, it will be scoped to that function itself, right? And if you create outside, it will be scoped to the global object. So let's come to let and const. So let and const are the new way of creating variable in JavaScript, right? Before it was only var. Now let and const has been added to JavaScript, and they provide some more benefits over error prone codes that are written using var or just global variables, right? There were some issues that were faced by the JavaScript developers using var, because that was leading to inconsistency, because a lot of people were modifying things anywhere, like so that was again leading to inconsistency. So let and const came with this concept, and this let and const are block scope everywhere. When I tell everywhere, be it function, be it if else block or any other block, while block or any block, right? Let and const are block scope meaning they are only accessible within the nearest set of curly braces. For example, if you write a if, right? For example, if you write a if you declare any variable using let and const here, it will be accessible only inside these two curly braces that you are seeing. But with that, if you declare anything using var here, it will be again accessible outside this if block as well, because it goes to a global object, right? But this is not case with the function, right? If I declare a function, for example func, and if I declare anything inside this function using let or const, let and const had very simple property, block scope. It will be accessible only this particular block, this particular two curly braces, and inside this function, right? And if you do anything inside variable, here comes the tricky part. Again, this variable created inside a function will be only accessible to this function itself, unlike this variable that is created inside var will be outside access as well from this block, this curly braces, but not in case of function. It will be only accessible out here, right? That's the difference of scoping while creating variables with let, const and var, right? So no talk, let's just create everything and check once what happens, right? So let's start with function first. So I'll have a function. We'll talk about var scope, let's see, right? And we'll go ahead and declare variables using all methods. So x, y, g, for example 20, let y equal to 30, and let const z equal to 40. 3 ways of creating variable, no issues so far. Go to the browser and you'll find no issues here, right? Now let's move on. Now let's try to access all these variable inside our function. I'll call it x, y, and z. Go to the browser and you will find this particular display thing, but before that we have to call this function as well, right? I'll go ahead and call this function from here. Hit save. You will see 2030, that is xyz, var let const are listed here. So far all good. Now let's move on and declare something like call something like console log x, the same thing. Like I'll just copy paste this here. Hit save. Go to the browser. You'll see some error, that is x is not defined. That was our saying. This x is only limited to this particular condition, right? Because it's a function. Now let's do one thing. Let's convert this to a if-else block, right? That is again not a function. I will remove this as well and hit save. Just guess the output. What will be the output, right? I'll go back to the browser and you will see x, y, and z are this 20, 30, 40 are coming from this particular line, and now is 20 is also coming from this particular line, but it is giving error, reference error, y is not defined, because as I said, this x and y will be only block scope even in if conditions or any other block, right? So they are block scope, so they are not accessible here. So we will be not able to access variable declare using let and const outside this block, right? But again, things change with function for only var that we have seen, right? If it would have been function again, we could not access this variable as well. So this is how it differs, right? Now let's do one thing, right? Let's move forward and check what's the difference between hosting. In hosting, we'll talk about hosting after this. Just remember the question hosting, right? So how it differs in hosting our var, let, and const, right? So let's understand first what is meaning of hosting in JavaScript. So JavaScript hoisting is a process where the interpreter appears to move all the declaration, like whatever declaration you want. For example, you have created a very long program and you have written a very long program. Inside this there is very long program that is executing, right? Now this very long program, what you'll do is, if you create a let, or let's say var x equal to 5, and again you have a very long program to be executed, right? And there is again var y equal to 10, right? So what hosting means is, our interpreter appears to move all of these things to the top of the program, right? So this is what hosting means. The interpreter moves all the declaration, be it function, be it variables, be it classes, to the top of their scope, right, prior to execution of the code, like this, right? So this is what it means. Let's understand, like, how it is declared, right? So first let's understand, like, so hosting, what is the benefit to hosting? If we are hosting the variables, what is the benefits to hosting? So the benefit of hosting is to allow safely use the code before they are declared, right? To not throw the error, right? But again, this again comes with a lot of problems, but this is could be a very good benefit as well, right? You can declare variable anywhere in the program and access anywhere in the program, right? Prior to that, the declaration as well, right? Now let's understand, like, what happens in hosting for let and const, right? So let's go ahead and declare a variable var x equal to 5. All good. I'll console log x. All good so far, so good. We'll see x, and that is perfect. Now let me do one thing. Let me move this before this particular initialization and declaration. I hit save, go to the back to the browser. We see this special keyword that is known as undefined. We'll talk about undefined in the separate video entirely, but this is a special keyword, a special placeholder for a variable placed by JavaScript, right? So if you have already seen my previous video, what first pass, like memory phase, does it assign undefined to each of the variables or function, whatever is there, right? So that is undefined basically, but for now, like, it will give you undefined, right? It's not giving you error, it's giving a value to the console log that is undefined. It's a value, right? Now let's do the same thing with a let var equal to 10, and we'll console log this. And we'll declare the same thing with const as well. Const var equal to 20 and console log const var. Cool, so far so good. Go to the browser, you see undefined, you see 10 and 20 for let var and const var. Let's do one thing, let's move this console log before it is even declared. Just gets the output, right? Let's go to the browser and you'll find that cannot access let var before its initialization. Cannot access let var before its initialization, right? This is, one of the common error you'll see, and this is very commonly, right? So what is happening here, right? So this particular variable is hosted, but this let var and const var are not hosted, right? They are not hosted. They are hosted in a special way, but they are not hosted in a global variable. That's why you were not able to access it, right? So we'll see how they are hosted now, right? If they are hosted, we are not able to access it, then how they are going to be hosted. So let's go to the browser first and place a breakpoint and see, like, whether they are even hosted, declared, or something. Up to this point, everything is clear and all good. We'll just do and refresh this page, and you'll find that console log is coming here. There's a let var that is there. One thing you'll note that there is one more object, like, apart from global object, that is script, that is noted here, right? that are noting our two variables, right? Const var and let var. That means they are hosted, but they are not hosted in like global variable. That's why we're not able to access it, right? So if you see x will be again somewhere here hosted in global object itself. If I go down and find x, you'll see x here, right? Because it is hosted in global object, but these particular things are not hosted in global object. They have a separate separate environment where they are hosted, right? And here it is, you are seeing this script, right? Now if I try to access that, of course it will give me error because it will not find that in that global object, right? So that's the issue with let and const var, and strict provides strictness so that you write better code and don't do illegal access of variables anywhere. So let's go ahead and see the difference between now just let and const. So if I declare x equal to 5, and if I do x equal to 10, and if I do console log this x, and let me do one console log here as well, right? Expected output 5 and 10, all good, perfect, no issues, right? 5 and 10. Now let me do the same thing with const x equal to 5, const let's say y equal to 5, console log y, hit save, go there. So you'll see, go to the console and you'll see 5, 10 and 5, right? That is 5, 10 and 5. Now let's do one thing. Let's remove this and hit save. You'll see missing initializer in const declaration. So the first thing is clear that whenever you're creating variable with const, you need to initialize there itself, right? Whenever you're declaring a variable, you need to initialize it there itself, but it's not the case with var. So you can initialize it later as well, like this, right? So if I go back to the browser and continue, I'll see that my undefined is there, 10 and 10 is there. That is coming from this are the undefined, this is 10 and this is 10, right? Now you can't first thing, I have renamed this again. First thing is I have assigned this value to x itself, that is declared here, right? So if I do 5, this particular statement will show me 5, right? This particular statement will show my 5, but this particular statement will show my 10 because the value have changed, right? As the name suggests, const is a constant that can't be changed. So first thing, you have to declare the variable and initialize there itself. Then if I go ahead and do, for example, y equal to 10, it will give me error. It will give me error. So if you see, this is giving as a type error, assignment to a const variable that is not provided by JavaScript. You can't reassign a const with another value. Const should be only one and only assignment, right? So now we have understood what the difference between let, const and var, but the thing is when to use and which one to use most of the time, right? So the suggestion is usually use const wherever you can, because const variable doesn't change, so it doesn't can lead inconsistency in your program. So wherever you can, use const, and and the value which are not expected to change, just use const. Next thing is you should be using let, because it's block scope and it can't range to top layer and everybody can't modify that. So it gives us the consistency in the program. So next thing is first const, then you should be using let, right? Because let's have better features as well. After that, var, you should be avoid using var now to declare your variables, but there are scenarios where we need var actually, right? But most of the time just use and let and const most of the time in your program, and unexpected error will not come, right? But var is also important, like we should not neglect that, and we will talk about that someday, like where var is important and we should have to declare variable with var. Let's understand now what hoisting means in our depth, right? We already talked about what hoisting is. It moves the code, your declaration of function, variable or classes to the top of the program, so it can be accessed before even the initialization and declaration. But the thing is, we have already talked about let and const and var hosting, but we haven't talked about function hosting, right? Let's go ahead and declare a function now. Let it call it get greetings, right? And what I'll do is I will create a function get greeting, and what I'll do is I'll return, our console log, for example. Hello, and I'll take a name from this particular function parameter, and I'll do hello such and such, right? So let's declare a function down, and what we do is we call go greeting, and I call name as Rohan. So let's get the output. Let's go to the browser and check the output. So if we stop somewhere, yeah, I go to this and it says hello Rohan. So if you see, you're calling this function even before it is declared, right? So this is hosting is working here as well, right? Hosting in working in the function as well. It doesn't work with let and const, right? It works with variable, it's with function, right? So whenever the memory creation phase happens, what it does, it associates the function name, right, to the whole function, the implementation of that function, right? Not a value, the implementation of a function wholly. For example, if you console log this function here, you will see that entire function is created and attached to that particular name. So this entire function will be attached. It's not the value that is attached. So this is how things differ for function. All right. So the thing is now let's go ahead and create a let a equal to 10, right? And I'll try to access this let. We have already seen that this will give us an error, right? Then we'll go to console and we'll see the error. So if you go to the console, here error is already coming, uncaught reference error, right? A cannot be accessed in A before initialization. We cannot access A before initialization. Just note the term initialization, not declaration, right? So the important concept here is to understand that JavaScript only hosts declaration, not the initializations, right? So in ES6, let and const binding are not subjected to variable hosting, that we have already seen, right? Which means declaration of let const will be not moved top to the program, right? Again, so if you access that, we'll get the reference errors. That is also correct. But the thing is, the let and const stays in the different memory, not in the global memory that we have already seen. And till the let and const are declared, till the initialization of them, is a zone known as temporal dead zone, that they stay in that particular memory is known as temporal dead zone. And let's understand what does it mean. For example, let me remove this all. So this will give us an error. So this is a program now. Of course, this will give us the error, like cannot access A before that, right? So let me go here just before the execution of the program, put the breakpoint in the top and start it. And if you see, there is a global object and there is a script tag, and this is undefined. Even it is hosted, right? We'll be not able to access that. So whenever the block of execution of a block starts, till that point, until and unless a let or const is initialized, is known as temporal dead zone, right? Is known as temporal dead zone. Again, repeating, the variable is in temporal dead zone from the start of the block until and unless it is initialized in that particular process, right? So that is known as temporal dead zone. In this temporal dead zone, what happens is they don't stay in a global object, they stay in their particular environment. As you can see here, like it is a script environment and there is a undefined here, right? Once it is initialized, and then it can access that. This can save us from a lot of errors, because hosting is not always good, right? It is good, but it's not always good. So many people avoid these things and everything, right? So now let's see. Let's create a variable. Let me create a variable, say a equal to 10, function. So this is the, let's call this hoist function, because we'll be using again hoisting here, and let me name it a, and let's call it console log a, and I'll call this particular hoist function using 20. Right now, if you see, I'm calling this function using 20. This will go here and print a. Right, there is one variable here which is local, and there is one variable a here which is global. Now think about it, like what will be the output of it? Yes, it will be 20. There is a solid reason for it to be 20, right? So this particular thing is same as like this. It's same as like this, right? So we have already seen this, like how it is executed and how it is bringing this 20 here, right? Because this will be treated as this block scope. So the concept is there are two variables a and b. If you see, one is, both are like, in the same, if you go here you'll find the same thing. So one is global and one is local to this function, right? So if I'm printing this, which should one it chooses to print that value, right? It usually chooses this var equal to 20, because this is known as variable shadowing. Variable shadowing occurs when a variable is declared within a certain scope, be it decision block, method, or inner classes, or anything, has the same name as variable declared in the outer scope, right? It outer scope or its global scope anywhere, like, so this is a tree, 1 2 3 4 layer of things, right? Inside block is there, declared there. For example, this one is declared, right? This is a block, right? And this entire thing a block. So this small block is inside this entire block. So this small block will override this particular variable and use this particular local variable to do its operation, right? This is known as variable shadowing. If there is a global scope like this, right? If there is a global scope like this, you'd like to create a variable with the same name in a function, then the variable of inner scope will temporarily shadow the outer scope, basically, right? So here the global variable is shadowed by this particular inner variable. For example, if I create one more function here, let's say inner host, right? And I declare this particular variable again outside this function, and I console log here. Pretty simple. What will be the output? 20. Yes, that is correct, right? And you might be already knowing like why it is coming as 20. So okay, I have to call this as well, so I'll just go here and call this as well. So I'll call this and I'll go to console, it prints 20. Perfect. Now I declare another variable that is again a, and I give value as 30. Now just guess the output, right? I hope like you have guessed correctly. So it is gonna be 30, correct? Because the inner one is shadowing the outer one. So this will shadow this particular variable, right? The outer scope variable, right? So if there is if it is not there, it will shadow this particular variable, and it will again show like the same thing, like it will show 30 itself. It will not show your 10. So if I remove this, it will go back to this function. It will find some, so if this is in this block, this will find a variable here, not found. Again it will get to the outer block, you'll find a variable not found. It will go to the outer block, it will find that okay, a is out here, right? So it just gives the value 10 right now. So this is how it works. It goes and look into the outer block for the values. If not, it is there and declared in the inner as well, it just shadows it. If not, it will go and look into the outer block and displays the value. So this is how variable shadowing works, but this is very limited concept. There is whole lot of concept between variable shadowing between let, const, and var. We'll talk about in the separate video. But for now, like this is what we discussed in this video, and I hope it has added a lot of value to your variable concept, your hoisting concept, your global variable concept, and strict mode as well. So if it is adding value, just consider sharing this video with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Till then, take care. Goodbye. I hope this video was helpful to you. If so, please do consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video and sharing with someone who you might think this video could be beneficial and this channel could provide some value to them. So with that, I'll see you next time in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.